Nice, man. Welcome. Good to see you in person.
Pleasure is mine. Is this the first time you're all doing it in person? No.
We've done, so before we were doing Internet Explorers, which was our like Friday show, we did a few of those in person. We did one at FarCon. It was like a live audience.
Okay.
This is our first 11 a.m. in person. So you're our first live guest on 11 a.m. Let's go.
What an honor, man.
Nice, man. So, I mean, do you just want to set the stage for people who maybe don't know Noice? Just tell us what it is and kind of the origin story of it, and then we can get into kind of what's in your head these days.
Fair enough. I mean, the origin story of Noice is a lot about how it started the idea that I think the way crypto moves on the internet probably needed a breakthrough, right? Like, the learning curve is intense, approve, swap, confirm, a bunch of those things, wallet addresses. And thanks to Farcaster, thanks to like transactions being abundantly cheap, we wanted to work in a way where crypto can move on the social feed. So the idea was like social interactions, like, comments, follows, so on and so forth. So when you like something, you can send people money, right? We ended up like we launched end of May, and since then we've done like 9 million transactions with just like a small set of like probably 30,000 people who use it, and there's been like 70,000 people who've made money on Farcaster and TBA, and it's been insane so far. Yes. But yeah, we're working on a few ways to like expand Noice beyond the specific protocol.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll probably dive deeper in.
Nice. Yeah, I remember. I think pretty quickly you guys like took over Farcaster, right? It's a dense social graph. Like when something emerges that's interesting there, suddenly everyone's using it. And I think probably within like a few weeks, like the majority of Farcaster is probably set up their Noice tipping. And I know kind of after that, you're like, wow, there's clearly something very real here, but we can't rely on Farcaster's growth for our company's growth. So tell us about that moment where you're like, okay, it's working very well here. There's some like unique features of this social network that allow it to, be uniquely enabled by this. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Again, incredibly grateful. I think it's the best place to like kickstart anything that you're trying to do on chain. But the specific day when I arrived at the tipping point was actually when I had like 5 minutes with Brian after the TBA launch, and I explained Noice to him, and I had like a very good conversation. And then the way he views this, and I think he's like a massive truth seeker, so I'd assume that he can see through it. And actually, if he thinks that this is likely going to be like how like the Google AdWords for decentralized social, or like some place where like, hey, big companies can like do things with Noice and like incentivize people to like use their product, etc. I was like, that's pretty cool, but there's two problems with it. A, there aren't a lot of companies who are like investing on chain, and B, even if they were, I'm not excited about it. And I'm not excited about like being a B2B supplier. Like, I find joy in helping people change their lives. Like, I think that's what I care the most about. So like even with Noice, like my joy eventually came from the fact that somebody with like 4 followers on Farcaster can get a like by Josh, and he can make $1 off Pracky or 11 a.m. Right? So I started thinking a lot about how like the barrier to actually making your first dollar on chain is literally like posting a meme or like a valuable reply. And I was like, fuck, that can change somebody's life in theory, right? Like if I was 13 and I made my first $100 on the internet, it would change everything for me. And you basically don't need 1 billion followers to make $100 now. That's where like I was really thriving, and that's where I saw like a massive impact with Twitter that I could have brought with like this specific element. Of course, like the more I talked to the team, I flew down to SF. I spent a decent amount of time, and I just realized that, hey, look, like what they're talking about like makes so much sense. Like they already have like a massive spam problem. There's 1 billion bots. How are we going to solve this? And I think I make it worse. Right, 100% I make it worse. So I was like, okay, I don't know, it just makes sense. And then you're like, okay, so this doesn't make sense. We can't scale to that. What are we going to do next? And yeah, the next 30 days are like super exciting for us. We've got a few things. We are coming on Twitter, in a different way than what everybody would expect us to be. And we're going to go for more stories like ours. Like I think that's where we find joy. Is like I wasn't in crypto till like 6 months ago, right? And I think I've been on the favorable side of everything ever since. And there's 1 billion people like me who probably like a lot of founders who are in the trenches, who don't have eyeballs, who don't have any money. And I think we're working on a way where we find them and then grow the economy.
Not in crypto 6 months ago, and now you are.
Yeah.
Look, that got you in.
Uh, Two of my best friends, man. Like I think Shijan and Dev. I've known them since the last 3 years. I reached out to Shijan because he was a Barcelona fan, and I used to live in. I just moved to Bangalore, so I reached out to him. We started watching games together. Uh, we started watching football games together, and they were FID 377 and 409. So they're like incredibly early. I didn't know shit about crypto, and I just used to hang out with them all the time. And like eventually they got me really excited. And then in Feb, I think I started helping them with Cast Money. It was a trading terminal. I was like a trading client on top of our caster. We couldn't get to a lot of places owing to like a bazillion reasons, but that's where I got into it because I was like, I recently, yeah, like ever since I was 19, I've been building companies. I'd shut down, I'd returned money, I'd sold, and then I was on a break. I didn't know much. And then these guys just took me in and they're like, dude, like you should give crypto a spin. And then
Sort of just 6 months into crypto, but you guys also were sort of part of this wave of, I guess, what we're calling internet capital markets. Right now, it's sort of like, let's launch a token very early. We'd love to talk to you a little bit about that because I think I've been fairly public and consistent about this, where I think there's like this very exciting opportunity, especially for certain products. And I'm assuming yours was one of these products where having a token really kind of made sense in how you're sort of originally thinking about it. But it also comes with a whole bunch of challenges too, right? Where you think if you look at probably the majority of the top tokens out there, they've been launched in a way that hasn't been sort of YOLO distributing most of those tokens from day one. They probably had built something for a period of time, whether that's at least attention or narrative or whatever before launching a token. And especially really early in the stage, if launching a token and maybe getting fees off of volumes or whatever are the first ways that you're actually generating capital to be able to invest in the product, that you're taking a pretty big bet, right? Because if that first thing doesn't work out, the ability to go raise money privately maybe becomes a little bit harder. The ability to structure your token again in a different way if you've changed and pivoted a little way. So I guess I'm curious about your sort of experience, your real honest take on launching ICM style from day one with the token.
right. So I mean, there's two ways to answer this. The first is our subjective way, but I think we've gotten lucky in a lot of ways, and we've also like put our life on the line. So we're like, I think we are like the 0.01% of what ICM has been historically for like people who are launching coins on day zero. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of love from people, and there's also like a lot of grind. So I'm not gonna take our case and like be like, hey, this worked out for us, and this will work out for the rest. But for the rest of the people, I'm going to tell you how I view it. Your product's always the product. Your chart isn't the product. So like you have to detach yourself from like price action. And the way I view internet capital markets, or the way we're going to solve it, is actually going to be a lot around like internet capital alignment, which is the fact that the way a founder needs his capital to be aligned and what the trader's best interests are, there's a massive bridge, right? Like traders are holding for 30 seconds or so on and so forth, and a founder idly wants patient capital that backs him for a while. How are you going to bridge that gap? How are you going to align these two people is where we are racking our brains over. And I think we're arriving to a couple of mechanics which are like incredibly exciting. I don't have any other answers. I'm just going to experiment a lot in public with like some of the people you end up working with. I do not have like a one size fits all answer to it. I think there is no one size fits all answer to ICM just yet. But at the same point in time, I think if we grind hard enough, we will arrive to an answer much like what YC has done with, say, incubators, or like they came up with the standard check size. Like, hey, look, like 125K, 7%. They came up with it and it's such a successful model. You see thousands of them now. Now, the question is, what is the token only answer for an incubation like that? Like somebody who's launched a coin and they demoing to liquid funds? Do they need a flywheel? How are they sustaining attention? Who are the holders? How much do they hold? Do we have a standardized answer to it? I think the answer is no. And I think that's what we're working towards. You have to be distribution first as a founder. That's the caveat of having a token. There are way too many downsides. There's $100 Telegram guys in your DMs like who are really texting you and asking you for answers, and eventually you have to desensitize yourself to it because you're like for us, like whether we were at 15 mil or 5 mil or 35 or whatever X million, like we've always been so indifferent to the price. We're like, look, the job's not finished. Like we'll know when the job's finished, right? Like we'll know when we are actually successful. We're not successful. Virtually, we are making progress. Like, getting on the Coinbase roadmap is progress. Are we successful? No, right? Like till I haven't figured how 100 people like Heath or Shijan or Div are able to like use this mechanic in a meaningful way, get like a million eyeballs, get $100,000. They either find PMF and they like raise more venture. They iterate, much like what we're going to do now, right? Like you realize that you seek truth, you're like, doesn't make sense, I don't want to do this anymore, so you iterate, great outcome. Or you die, which is also a great outcome, because if your product doesn't deserve to live, if you're building something that the market doesn't want, move on, and it's completely okay. So all three cases are great cases. If you find PMF, or you iterate, or die, that's what you have to accelerate towards. That's what I think day zero tokenization can do. But the most important part is the launch isn't everything. What happens after launch, the next 60 days, I don't think any platform or any launch pad really helps you with that. So I think I want to really focus on not launching more coins, but like, hey, look, like if somebody comes and works with us, then I want them to go from point A to point B, and I'm going to do everything I can for them to do this. Like I need them to graduate, right, to either PMF, iteration, or die. Any of those are successful outcomes, but they can't be in this valley of slow death, where neither do you have traction, nobody's paying attention, you think you're slow grinding, you have some money. That's slow death. So I think that's what we don't want.
So what are you building?
What am I building? I think that's TBA for a bit. But yeah, I think that's TBA. But I think the dream is like the TLDR for this is that, hey, look, like I think there's something incredibly important. Nobody has it figured. If I view this with like a 10-year landscape, then I have like $1 trillion market in front of me, and I think I'm just gonna like, the earlier I start experimenting with it, the higher the odds. We found some success with like 0 to 1 in a way where like I think we've understood how this attention thing is, what kind of companies should likely launch a coin. Not everybody should launch a coin, right? Like I think you have to probably be consumer facing to an extent, because consumer facing people need distribution and money, and like they just need a little bit of money and a little bit of distribution. You don't need $10 million to figure out and how you're going to build the next Amazon. You probably need like 500K, 3 months, and like 100 customers, right? That's really that's the part where I want to like actually help them with. So I think that's how we're likely headed in a certain way.
Yeah, I think we're very clearly in this place now where I think the first wave of people that were attracted by this ICM narrative, or and the products that were kind of enabling it, were very like kind of short term like opportunists, right? And I think there's so much to be excited about here. People hanging out on the internet, getting early stage access to stuff they believe in, all the distribution, kind of funding superpowers that come with it. And like the only way we're actually going to get there is if people with long-term visions, that are kind of relentless founders that believe in tokens, are committed to going to figure it out. And I think your commitment to finding other people who kind of look like the Noice opportunity, or building these crypto native things that tokens can naturally fit into, and just figuring it out with them, I think is a great thing.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you the one thing that we're internally like very cautious about. Like we've talked to like a lot of people, and it's just that I want you to be like obsessed about whatever you're doing. I want you to build for 5 years, but look, I don't know if I want to, like, if Noice doesn't deserve to exist 3 months later, it should not exist, right? So like, but as of today, that's where 24 hours of my energy, time, and bandwidth goes in. So the people we're trying to like really work with are people who are only thinking about one thing and one thing only. That's table stakes. That's literally table stakes. Like if you don't have that, then there's like dramatically lower odds of success. So yes, you do need people who are all in, and we're just like very cognizant of the fact that, which is why we'll never be permissionless, by the way. Like I think we'll likely not be like, hey, just like anybody come launch a startup here. I think I want a certain level of quality to be associated with what we do next, and it's going to be fairly subjective, but that's the bet. That's the bet that we're going to take, is that it's going to be permissioned. And I it's very, you probably need like 30 minutes like in a conversation with someone to know if they really care about what they're doing, or if
7 minutes like last game, man. 7 minute interviews.
yeah, bro, we'll arrive to like something like that. Like it just really takes very little to know somebody who really cares about what they're doing, even if they have no money. Like shout out to Igor, right? Like I'm not sure if you've come across Griff, but like that dude's been at it, and I see it in his eyes, right? Like I know he's doing something next again, but I see that he's giving everything to whatever he has, whatever situation he may be in. So that's the person, right? But at the same point in time, like if somebody's launching like a project every month, a mini app every month, and like just trying and spitballing and like launching a coin for it every month, yeah, I'm just gonna stay away from them, right? Because I don't associate. I don't want somebody. It's okay to fail and do another coin and a new company later, completely all right. But if you have like more than 2 @ in your bio building something, you're out. Like that's we'll just never get on a call, right? Because it doesn't make sense. So
All right.
Yes. Anything you want to leave leave the audience with here? If they're
Mm.
excited about
Yeah,
what you're talking about, curious about the future of Noice.
Yeah, just like reach out to us. Like if you think there's something with like tokenization that you want to play with, we're very open to experimenting. We're like going to try figuring it out in the public. It's a billion or a bust. I think that's what we. That's
There we
the.
go.
It's
That's
a
the
billion or
mindset.
a.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually get a hat designed for a billion or a bust. But yeah, and then we're expanding to Twitter in a very meaningful way. That's going to help all the founders that we're working with. After the stream, I'll likely show you what it's about. But yeah. Meaningful distribution is incredibly important. I think we do great video, we do great content. We're going to help you. Like, we'll put our life on the line because if you don't succeed, we don't succeed. That's how the model is likely going to be. So, but I want to increase the odds of success for every person that I work with, and that basically comes from long-term distribution, much like what you all have done. We have to do the same. So, see us on Twitter in a couple of weeks, and then across all sharing wallets a couple of months later.
All right, brother.
Okay, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll see you in the forest shortly.